Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is a world premiere.
Great morning, great morning, great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. That's right. It's time for your number one talk show. Absolutely. Right here. The Culture Call. It's the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. Yeah. And for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., I'm going to be talking about a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics, from religion to relationships. That's right. And always, we are here to create a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and yes, even sometimes controversial conversations. And guess what? You can call in and chat it up with me as we learn together right here on the Culture Call. Listen. Shout out number one. Let's start with our shout outs. Shout out to number one to all of you who are our new listeners. That's right. If this is your first time being a part of the CC family, the Culture Call family, welcome. We are so glad and grateful that you are with us on this morning. And I'm telling you, whether you're on vacation or at your job listening with your earphones in, or whether you're, driving down the street, it doesn't matter. I'm telling you, for the next 2 hours, you are going to be tremendously empowered. Absolutely. Because all we're going to do here is tell you the truth and nothing but the truth. So, hey, buckle up. We got a great ride ahead of us. Welcome all of our newcomers. Second shout out to all of our faithful, committed, consistent listeners. That's right. You follow us right on after Brother Jay, and you keep us locked in until lunch. I am grateful for you, ma'am, for you, sir, who make the Culture Call and have made the Culture Call what it has been for this last year. We are in our second year, going toward our second year now, and I'm super glad that you all are taking the ride with me. And the numbers prove it. So I am grateful that you are definitely here. Tell somebody they ought to listen to the bishop. That's right. From 10 to 12 right here on the Culture Call. And then finally, last but not least, big shout out to Brother Jay, absolutely, who leads us in from all the way from 5 to 10 early in the morning. And he passes me that awesome baton and says, son, run on to see what the end's going to be. That's right. All of his wisdom and his insight, his knowledge. We are so very fortunate and blessed to have him on our team and as our mentor. And I tell you, I'm going to do exactly what he says. I'm going to run on to see what the end is going to be. Listen, I want to encourage each and every one of you who has not to go ahead and download that free 99 app off of your Apple or onto your Apple or your Android device. Go ahead and do that. That's right. Go ahead to the App Store, search out Praise 93.3 FM, and go ahead. You're going to download that app. It doesn't cost you a thing. That's right. And you can hear us all around the world. Dare I say all around the country. I'm telling you, doesn't matter what you're doing, doesn't matter where you are. With that app, you'll be able to catch up on news, hear our amazing programming here, the weather, and all of the current events. You won't miss a thing if you download that app. You know that? Yeah, absolutely. So no matter if you're in Detroit, Michigan, whether you're in Las Vegas, Nevada, maybe you're right there in Biloxi, Mississippi, or in the beautiful city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Birmingham, Montgomery, Mobile, Huntsville. You might be in Gordo, Reform, Aliceville, Utah, Boulder G. Does not matter where you are. If you have that app, you can hear us. Absolutely. Listen, also do me a favor. Go ahead and email me your public service announcements and events to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. And give me an opportunity to let everybody, Lottie, Dottie, and everybody know what's going on at your church and your organization, your sorority, your fraternity. If you're an artist getting ready to have an album or start an album or have a concert, or whether you're a pastor, that's right. getting ready to have a revival, or even plant a new church. Doesn't matter. We want to let everybody know. Absolutely. Why? Because something happens to us in community when we put faces in the place. You feel supported, and we want you to know that what you do really matters in our community. You know why? Because we do it better when we do it together. Listen, go ahead and follow me on Facebook. Yeah, The Culture Call. You can tap in there. Just tap that like finger. And if you're not already following us, and you'll find all of the information that we're going to be doing, the service announcements when they send them in, everything, a conversation, all of that is on the Culture Call page. So go ahead and tap that thumb and be a part of the CC family online, okay? Listen, also, I need you to write down this number, 205-752-4800. That's 205-752-4800. Go ahead and call into the show, or that app feature. The app has a wonderful chat feature. You need to use that, because many of you do that while you're at work or while you're in travel, whatever you're doing, you're using it so that you can be a part of a conversation. I welcome it all. Definitely do that. Well, maybe you missed a past broadcast. You can go to Apple Podcasts, and there we are, Culture Call. You're going to see my face there, and you can catch all of our previous shows. If you missed something, yeah, you can, because all of it is good, y'all. Do you hear me? All of it is good. And so you definitely don't want to miss that. Listen, so sit back and relax. Grab you some coffee. You know how we do it over in these parts. Maxwell House or Starbucks. Maybe coffee is not your thing. Maybe you like a little tea. Well, let me recommend chamomile if you're trying to calm down, and a little green tea if you're trying to get a little caffeine kick, trying to make it toward lunch. Maybe I'm not a coffee or a tea drinker. We don't do soda around these parts, right? Absolutely. You can get you some alkaline or some spring water. Get hydrated. That's right. Get down to that cellular level and wake up those cells, and give them a little drink of water. And let's get into the culture. Listen, there's so much going on in the world. Are y'all paying attention, to the news? I want to start off with the news, because it's going to help me segue into really what I want to talk about today. The news has, man, I'm telling you, the more that we listen, and I hope that the more that you all realize that the more that we're paying attention, the more we have an opportunity to see that, one side just ain't telling the truth. As a matter of fact, that, he admitted on Sunday, the vice president J.D. Vance, well, not vice president yet, but the one that's running along with former President Trump, admitted that they'll create a story to drive the media in a certain direction. And, of course, you all know that after that debate loss and several polls that came out, Trump was losing, and is, not just was, but is losing the narrative really fast. And so what they decided to do was conjure up this story to combat the failing narrative of the Haitians eating pets, dogs, and cats in Springfield of Ohio. And all of the city officials, all of the state officials have said, what are y'all talking about? That's a lie. The people in the city have said it. Now, J.D. Vance keeps saying, well, I talked to my constituents. He's lying. Nobody said that. He is lying. And, as they saw that didn't work, then here comes another second assassination attempt. And I put that in air quotes, because as the reports are coming out, the man never fired a shot. The man had been there for 12 hours. He wasn't even in the area where the former president was. All of this, he was mentally ill, shouldn't have had a gun, and all these different kinds of things. Pay attention now. So the FBI comes in, and it's, of course, to do an assassination against a former president is a federal offense, right? The Secret Service, that's a federal offense. But the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, won't release the prisoner to the FBI, to the federal government, because now he's saying that we don't trust the federal government, so we in Florida, like we trust Florida, are going to investigate it ourselves, right? So, and then who is the lead attorney? You ready? A Haitian American. And that is hilarious. This is hilarious. Listen, Hollywood could not write a better story, right? Because every day, there's something coming out. Listen, and so I hope that you're paying attention. Not only that, today is National Voter Registration Day. Make sure that you have registered to vote make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to be ready to and available to vote. First of all, next week, September 24th, which is the ad valorem property tax increase. You need to be registered to vote. Whether you say yes or no, you need to still be registered to vote, because then we'll know already that you are ready for November 5th, which is the federal election. And we don't need you just to vote for president. You need to vote all the way down the ballot. Yeah, all the way down the ballot, all the way. Every part, everything that is, every person that needs to be elected. Don't just mark one person and say glory, hallelujah, because you got to give that individual. You got to give that individual a Congress, because so many people, because we don't teach civics anymore, people think presidents and vice presidents have all the power. Right. And they do not. They have to run every bill. Y'all remember Schoolhouse Rock? I'm just a bill, and then I'm on. Yeah, I'm not gonna sing today, but nonetheless, yeah, it takes more than just the president. Now they have veto power, and they have the power of the bully pulpit, where they can get up and tell you what they are for. But then you've got to deal with the Senate and the House of Representatives in order for a bill to actually be passed, right? And so, yeah, make sure that you do your due diligence, right? Because let's not complain on the backside when we could have chosen on the front side. Let me say that again. Don't complain on the what? Backside, when you had the power to choose on the what? Front side. I want you to remember that, because I think, again, as they're not teaching, civics and how government works in school anymore. And that is unfortunate. They're not really doing maybe a major job in social studies. When I was growing up, we had a mock president, we had a mock vice president, we had a mock Congress. We had to do all of that in a class called American Government. And that was a class that was subsequent civics, right? So you learned about civics, learned about government, learned about being a good citizen, learned about America's history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next year you would take American government, because they wanted you to know at that time how this government actually works, right? And so there is no policy without participation, right? And you can get mad at the policy, but you're just going to be fussing and complaining, and they're going to ignore you. Why? Because you are not a voter. So on this day, go ahead. You can still do it online. I think the cutoff date in Alabama might be the 17th of October. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, you do your research and find out if you're doing it online, or you can do it in person. Churches are doing it. Civic organizations are registering people to vote. This is predicted to be the most heavily voted participation in voting in history, and that tells you exactly what is at stake in our country. And so we can't just sit on the sidelines. And here's what we can't do. We can't say the Lord gonna make a way. God does not choose presidents. People do. Let me try it again. The Lord does not, Jehovah, Yahweh, whoever you want to call him, he does not choose presidents. He doesn't. And I know we like to know, but you and I have the responsibility. And yes, we have to evaluate our presidents and our politicians for what they do. They're not trying to be bishops. They're not trying to be pastors. They're not trying to be deacons on the board. No, they are trying to run the entire country. And the entire country is not one monolith. It's not monolithic. It's not just one kind of people, one kind of ethnic, one kind of color, one kind of belief system, right? And so that's very important. I know many people say, well, this is a Christian nation. No. You get to choose Christianity. You get to choose that. That's not something that a government can say, oh, this is a Christian nation, so you must become a Christian. Well, no, that's not even how the Bible even references that. Your salvation is a personal choice. It's a choice. Yes, it's a choice. Yeah, whosoever believes in him, that means it's a choice, right? So that's important. So, but when we go to the ballot, we do use our faith and our judgment and our common sense, such as it is. And we've studied the issues and all of those different kinds of things. And we make a choice because this is a democracy, not a theocracy, right? that God can be in charge of your life doesn't mean that God is at the center of your neighbor's life. And I think that is something for us to understand, that we can't sit home and just go to Bible study and all that. Listen, if you won't sit home to elect Reb, then how you gonna sit home to elect the president? You see what I'm saying? That don't make sense to me, right? If you gonna come to the church meeting to get the new pastor or to vote the old one out, or however that kind of parliamentary, procedures and government, all that happens in your church, if you're going to get up to do that and put on your best dress and your best suit to do that, and then how dare you sit home when we're trying to elect the president? So everybody be about their duty. Everybody be about their duty. Make sure that you are registered to vote. And if you have 18-year-old children, tell young men and women, it's your time now. It's your responsibility to make your voice heard and make your voice known, right? And so that we can have a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. So that's very important. Listen, today I want to talk about something about the power of narratives. Now, what you mean, the power of narratives? That's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the story behind the stories. And I'm going to talk about that culture called, let me tell you why. And that is because every day we are given another story, another narrative, another understanding. Everything you see, everybody you see, everything that appears, every tree, every plant, every person has a particular narrative, has a particular story that has made them to be and fashioned them to be what they are going to be, right? Or what they are currently, right? Nobody that is breathing in the world, and nobody who has left the world, and even those who are about to enter the world, everyone has a narrative, right? And one of my favorite texts in the scripture, because I want to springboard a platform on this, is the book of Jeremiah. When God says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. In other words, and he says, and I've set you to do this, and I've ordained you to do that. In other words, that Jeremiah did not know until that point in time that he was living out a narrative, that there was a storyline that is connected to his life. And one of the things that I want us to sit in today and to think about today is, how is your story going? What are the narratives of your story? How did you get to be the kind of person that you are? How did your community come about? How did your church come about? How did your school? How did your education? Every aspect of our lives has a story connected to it. And I guess I am, excited about that, and I get really, passionate about it, because as a pastor, I've over the years had to sit and listen to people's narrative. That when they come to me, say, I need to talk to you. I say, okay, hey, set up an appointment. And then they get to talking. I stop them. I say, okay, yeah, you want me to make a decision and give you wisdom and advice, but you're starting at the middle of a story. And the only part of the story that you're telling is either you're the victim or you're the one that is only the good one. But if I'm going to help you, you got to give me the full narrative. What is the real story? How did you meet this woman? Where did y'all meet? How long did y'all date? Right? What kind of family did you come from? What kind of family did she come from? Right? Don't just start off, well, she ain't doing this and she ain't doing that, or he ain't doing this and he ain't doing that. No, that's in the middle of the story. And you want me to judge, right? You want me to be judge and jury of a story or a narrative that I'm coming in probably on the end of it, but definitely in the middle, because I don't know everything, because I didn't go home with you. So you have to provide me with the narrative, right? And one of the things that, when I was a school teacher, that's how I dealt with my kids. That's how I dealt with my children when they were in class and they had an issue. I want to know what makes this child tick. I want to know what is their narrative. If I met you today If you're in Piggly Wiggly or Publix or wherever, if I met you in a restaurant and you want to sit and talk to me, you want to know the narrative, right? When I sit before people, there are times that I have to go out and promote my record or on the radio, or I'm promoting a revival or a conference that I'm going to be a part of, and I sit down with that radio announcer. The first thing they ask me is my narrative. So matter of fact, they start off with that, my biography, my how did you get to this place? Because I think that is important. Because if we don't understand narrative, we can't see change or the lack thereof. Because nestled in our stories, personal or otherwise, are our transformations, are our formations, are our ideologies, are our experiences, our environments, and all of those things have made up our encounters, right? That if we just say, hey, well, I'm just gonna judge you how you show me. I'm gonna give it to you how you show me. You don't know that person had a bad day before they came. That person before they met you has a story, is a narrative. And so they're acting out this way, not necessarily because of any interaction with you, but they're walking out a story. And today, Culture Call, I want us to sit and think about, what is our storyline? How did you get there? Why did you marry that person? Yeah. Why did you take that job? What is that about? Right? Why do you wear this and why do you not wear that? Why do you not wear makeup? Why do you not wear jewelry? Or why do you wear so much makeup and why do you wear so much jewelry? How come your hair is like it is? All of that is a part of a story. And the first thing I want to really push into you this morning as we take this off on this Culture Call plane is that your story matters. I'm going to say it again. Your story matters. That whether anybody listens to you or not, or takes you seriously, right? Your story matters, right? And that's very important. You know, we're in the middle of an election season, and part of what goes on there is people telling their personal stories. I listen to people's stories because that gives me an indication on their ability to execute judgment, especially if they're executing judgment for other people beyond themselves, which is most people in the political arena. So I listen who can talk about their father. I listen who can talk about their mother, their sisters, their family, their upbringing. I listen to all of that. I listen to how the certain cue words. I listen to it because it tells me a lot about why they do what they do now. And I think sometimes we miss valuable information. We miss critical insight into the lives and the moments of people because we don't understand the power of their narrative. That if you start with David at Psalm 50, Psalm 51, have mercy, O Lord, upon me, have mercy upon me, O Lord, according to thy loving kindness, according to thy tender mercies. If you start right there, right, then you won't understand all of David's life. But you got to start back, go back a way and look at all the narratives to see why David wrote that, right? Because Nathan, the prophet Nathan, is a big part of that particular psalm of repentance. Yeah, he's a big part of that. Bathsheba is a part of that. Yeah. David being out of a place as a king is a part of that. But you got to then, well, how did David become king? Oh, okay, well, let's go a little bit further back. You see, everybody, what I'm trying to condition you and to get you to understand is that nobody's actions, nobody's responses and or reactions just exist out of the clear blue sky. Nobody. No. All of us have a particular narrative. You don't trust men. You didn't come into the world not trusting men. I don't trust no woman. You did not come, sir. You didn't come into the world. What's the story? What's behind all of that? Right? What, why? Because number one, you ain't met all women. You ain't met all men. Men, excuse me. So you saying you don't trust, I don't trust no man. Okay, cool. Well, you haven't met all men. So who did you meet that put you in that particular space to make you not trust anybody? The narrative, the story matters. Yes, the story, your story matters. Especially if it's resolving on hate and unforgiveness. Yeah, then I need to know, because part of my job in life is to make sure that you're freed from those kinds of things, resting on your heart, resting on your mind, your soul, and your emotions, resting on your spirit. I know that's part of what I do every day. So since that's your confession, that's your proclamation, that is your public decree that I don't do this and I ain't going to ever forget, then I need to know the story. Because there's a narrative that goes with that. Because guess what? You didn't come in. No person is born racist. What's the narrative? But when you find a racist, that person has a narrative. They got a story connected to that. Now, whether they want to tell it or not, because yeah, some people hide behind not telling their stories. But if they really, really want to be a part of humanity, of community, then you and I have to draw out of them the power of their story. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, stories. We're going to be talking about narratives and certain narratives that get you to thinking right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. I need you to keep it right here. There's so much more to come.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. And we are having an amazing morning already. I'm telling you, I want to empower you this morning. I want you to think this morning, to contemplate, to meditate. Yeah, I'm working with your mind this morning. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So you got to start thinking this morning, right? And I want you to think about you. I want you to think about you. Yeah, I don't necessarily traffic in things that might sound selfish, but this is really important, because if you don't accept your story and if you don't understand, we're talking about the power of narratives and really what's behind the story. You know, one of the shows that I like is Unsung and things like that. You know, I like to see how people started off their career, their homes, all of that, you know, because it's intriguing to see the storyline that has made them the kind of individual they are today. And oftentimes we think that's only for quote unquote famous people, when in fact it's not. Because all of us have important stories. Now, whether you tell your story is one thing, but one thing you have no choice in doing is living your story, right? You may not tell us all the things that have happened in your life. That does not mean that your story does not exist, because our stories are used to shape us. Our stories are used to form us, to give us a perspective of life, if you will. That's what our stories are about. And every day that you live, there is a particular narrative that people is why. See, I tell people this all the time, Culture Call. Here it is. That people don't just meet you, they experience you. Ooh, that's good. Say that again, I will. People don't just meet you, Loretta. Sam, people don't just meet you. Roberta, Mildred, they don't just meet you. They experience you. Pastor, Reverend Doctor. So when what people experience is the formation of your story, the formation of your narrative, right? And you know that's something that's very important. And one of the things I think is important is that Brother Jay and I, we were talking before I got on air, and he says, listen, you might as well tell the truth because it's going to come out anyway. It's going to come out anyway. You got to be honest, right? And the truth of the narrative, most of us hide our narratives and our stories because there are some places and spaces. Now, here's what I'm not saying to do. You ain't got to tell everybody your business, because you know how we roll. Get out of my business. You know, why you in my business? No, but again, we experience your business, whether you tell us or not. And the inquisitive person, hey, that's me. The inquisitive person will be like, hey, yo, tell me about XYZ. Why did that happen? Why did you do that? Why was that decision made? Or what made you this kind of individual? I see when I met you, you were so confident, you were so bold. When I met you, you were so fearful, you were so shy. Talk to me. Well, I've always been that way. Okay, maybe so for just to get me beyond it. But I know that the way that we live our lives and the way that we show up in life has been a story created by some kind of situation. Again, I think I told you all before that part of my dad's issue with doctors was that when he was young, that the doctor, and his time, he was born in the 40s, and when he went to the doctor, and the doctor was trying to give him a shot, and it hurt him so badly, and the doctor didn't apologize. It just hurt. He just cried, and from that point on, watch this. So he might have been maybe 8, 9 years old. Watch this. From that point on, my dad lived to be 74, 73. Yeah. He lived to be 73 years old. And from that time that happened in his preteen years to 74, he could never trust the doctor. There was a narrative there. Now, when he went in the doctor's office, he would be really short, or he would always try to act like he knew more than, or just like you would think he got a medical degree. My mom had to tell him, Joseph, you ain't get no medical degree. Your degree's in music and in math. That's where your degrees are. You didn't get no medical degree, but he would always do that. He was a specialist in home remedies. He would study home remedies. Why? Because he didn't want to go to the doctor. What was that based off of? A 4-year pain or hurt that he had in his preteen years, around when he was about 8 or 9. And he kept that for 60 plus years. Don't tell me stories don't matter. You will never outlive your stories. Yeah, good or bad. Yeah. The day that you gave the preacher your hand and God your heart, the day you met him, we've got songs about that. Somebody found him on a Monday. Somebody found him on a Tuesday. We got songs about that. Right? Right? So you know, that's important. No, that's a part of your story. That's a line of demarcation in your story. That ended one chapter, one phase of your book, and now that you're saved, prayerfully, that I hope that you're saved and not religious. Okay, because that's two different kinds of situations, right? Because saved is an experience. Religion is the life that you begin to cultivate based upon that religion, right? You know, some people say, well, I don't like religion. I don't do religion. I don't have no religion. Come closer. That really the true indication of you being saved is the religion you practice. There are things you do religiously. Religiously, I come to church. Religiously, I praise and worship the Lord. But religiously, I serve in ministry and I help other people. Religiously, I try to pray. And XYZ. See, so that your experience is going to birth a religion, a routine. Y'all don't like the word religion? That's when I hear people say, well, I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. Yeah, whatever you're doing consistently and ritualistically because of your experience of spirituality is, quote unquote, religion. This is why James talks about pure religion. This is why he says that, right? And so each and every one of us have these particular lines of demarcation. And I want you, Culture Call, to begin to think about those lines of demarcation, significant things, births of children, marriages, baptisms, races won, championships won. You know, some of you have divorces and things that are unspeakable to talk about, unfortunately, but they are part of your story. They are a part of your narrative. And, sir, ma'am, they have made you who you are. You can't run away from your story, and neither should you. Neither should you. You shouldn't be around people that make you feel bad about the things you've lived through and the things you've survived. You should not be around those people. I don't care who they are, family or friends. Let me say this again, Culture Call. You should not open up your heart and your and keep time with people who make you feel bad because you've had certain experiences in your life and they haven't. Right? Don't allow them to rob you of the fullness of your message, the fullness of who you are, the fullness of what you've lived through and survived through. Yeah, that's so very important. And so this is how we also build community. And whatever space that is, that may be a neighborhood, that might be a church, that could be something as small as a choir, that could be something as intimate as a relationship, a boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, husband, wife. Everybody brings their story, right? This is the reason why we have premarital counseling, pre-marital advisement, because everybody's coming from someplace. You were raised with a certain group of parents. She was raised with a certain group of parents. And now those things have created narratives, created stories. If he was raised or was reared with a mama that cooked every day, she was a housewife and cooked every day and cleaned up after everybody and, was a tad subservient to his father, nothing dominated, but that was her space. That's the frame of mind and the frame of reference when he starts looking for a relationship. That's his first frame of reference. A boy's mother, a man's mother, is his first frame of reference of what to look for in a girlfriend / a wife. Right? Good. Now, you were reared by a mama who went out to work. Your mama and daddy alternated on who was cooking. Everybody cleaned up after themselves. Everybody had chores and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't a one-person show. It wasn't, And so now you're going to hook up with this guy who had a mama like that, and his expectations are going to be different than yours. And you don't get married and then talk about it. You don't get married and then compare stories. Culture Call, no. Before we even get there, let's talk. Where you coming from? Yeah, I'm a man that XYZ, but I'm a woman that XYZ, and I'm kind of setting my ways. Yeah, okay. Then why are we going any further? Because those two stories right there, those two narratives tell you do not go any further. Don't get intimate. Don't have no sex. Don't do nothing else. Don't try to twist up and twatch up emotions. Don't get no soul ties, because automatically in life your stories do not complement each other. Right? And where we can't complement and supplement each other, then what are we doing here? And then 10 and 20 years down the road, over half of which you have suffered in misery, because really, she ain't what you want, sir, and he ain't what you want, ma'am, and yet y'all got these rings on your finger. People can, watch this, and your story, Lord have mercy. Shall I say this? Yeah. Your story gives off an energy. Well. So you can't hide it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Your story is giving off a particular energy. Yeah. It's giving off a particular energy. And we're like, something's wrong with them. And y'all grinning and holding hands and in church and all kind of at the restaurant and everything. But your stories, the fact that they don't align with each other, the fact that they're clashing, you can't cover up that with Mac Factor. If you put lipstick on a pig, guess what's going to happen? It's still going to be a pig. It's just going to be a pig with lipstick. It's going to smell like a pig. It's going to look like a pig. It's going to trot like a pig. It's going to eat like a pig. You're just trying to make it look good for public appearances. But guess what? We'll see what it is, because every narrative, every story gives off an energy. And that's very important, Culture Call. Yeah. Every last one. That's what I'm telling you. When people meet you, they meet an experience. They meet all of the bad things have happened, all of the good things. They meet your parents, your grandparents. They meet your friends. They meet your hurt. They meet your healing. They meet your pain. They meet your pleasure. All of that is a part of who you are. Right? And that's important. And then when we inflate that narrative, when we talk about stories, stop and think then. Stop and think. Just stop and think of all the people in your circle and say, I wonder if do I know his story? Do I know her story? And it's dangerous to be friends or in close acquaintances with people whose stories you don't know, whose narratives you don't understand. Yeah, you don't listen. Don't do it. Now, as I tell my kids, you ain't paying me no attention, you ain't paying me no mind, but you showing up better. You better listen to what I'm trying to tell you. You better hear me what I'm saying, hell. Hear me what I am saying. Ask the questions because we're trying to formulate. We're formulating. See, if this person has gone through some traumatic situations, been to war or whatever, and they've got PTSD, and they move next to you on the 4th of July, they're having a bad day because that those rockets and bombs and all those things, you laughing in the street, they hiding in the house. They got a different narrative living right next door to you. It triggers something in them. See, that's where your triggers are. In your stories and in your narratives. Because my thing is, again, when I sit down to meet with people, I want to know why you got mad at that. Why did that trigger you like that? What trauma are you not telling me that you have that we must need consider? Yeah? That we must need consider while we're dealing with you. Oh, ain't nothing wrong with me. Yes, there is. We can see it. We can smell it. Yeah, we experience your stories. We do. And so I think that's very important in the culture in which we live. And once you understand that, first of all, you begin to be patient with yourself. And the reason why I wanted to do that, because I'm finding a lot of people in this particular culture that's not patient with their own development, right? That they've got stories that they got to work through. They're still working through some of the issues and some of the sub-chapters of their stories. And we meet them and we greet them and we work with them and we worship with them every day. And some, we listen to them preach and we listen to them sing. But everybody's working through chapters in their stories. And one of the things that growing up the way that I did in a Pentecostal home, growing up in the church that I was in, there were a whole lot of people that I wish were still alive to be able to hear me teach this, share this broadcast with y'all today. Not so much teach a lesson, but because these people were in pain because they could not adjust to their lessons, and yet their lessons were showing up there, or their lives were telling a story, were letting us know that something was going on. Right? There's certain things that happened in their past that they hadn't forgiven themselves. Older women who had children out of wedlock. And now they're so mean to everybody, every young lady. They're really legalistic. Pull your dress down. Why you got that on? Keeping them daughters in the house, keeping the nieces in the house. And they are running away from their own story. Because I'm afraid of what I'm still shamed of what happened to me. But they created rules to guard that. Yeah, they created rules and laws to guard anybody ever knowing that. And that's the tragedy, is that when you create rules and walls around your life and you show a certain individual and then you're judging them harshly, or you're doing something to them that is a reflection of your past, but they don't even know your past, yeah, you're allowing that to govern your life. And one of the things that you've got to do, especially in your bad times, Culture Call, especially when you're not on your game, especially when you've had a bad series of events or you made a bad series of decisions and you're still alive, is to have grace and patience with yourself. Because your story is not over. It's still in progress. Yeah, it's what you do next. We know what you did, but it's what you do next that will determine how the story ends. Absolutely. Listen, we got to take a break right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3, 790 WTSK. Y'all, we having a great day. I'm glad that you are with me. Stay right here. There is much, much more to come.
This is a world premiere.
And we're back. It's the top of the hour, 11 a.m. and some change, right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Praise 93.3 and 790 WTSK. And we have been having an amazing, amazing morning. Yeah, don't you think? Absolutely. Listen, want to send a shout out and welcome to all of you who are joining me on the second hour, the 11 a.m. hour of this amazing radio broadcast. I'm telling you, we have talked about some things. Today we're dealing with the power of stories and narratives and helping you understand, and first of all, yourself and others, because I think sometimes we adjudicate so harshly and so roughly, and we don't understand where people really, really come from. We don't understand their stories, and it's a tragedy because we're in a space of time where stories don't matter to us. I don't care. But no, we are in a space where stories do matter. And if you can look at and track somebody's story and their narratives, it will tell you a whole lot about who they are, what they believe, why they act the way they do, why they go the places that they go, why their friends and their relationships turn out like they do. Yeah, because they have a particular narrative that's driving their lives, because those stories have formed them to be and to think a certain way, right? And so cogito ergo sum. That's the a saying that simply means as I think, therefore I am. That however I experience life is what's going to cause my thought patterns to be a certain way. And once I think a certain way, guess what? Yeah, that's how my life is going to be. As a man, what? Thinketh in his heart, so is he. We cannot live above the level of our thoughts, right? You got to bring your thinking up in order for you to go up. Right. All right. So I think that's very, very important, even as we segue into this. Listen, want to just bring you a reminder. Next week, the 24th of September is voting day. It's the vote on the ad valorem taxes. Last week, we had representatives from the school board system, Erica Grant and Jay Duke, came by and said why it was so important. And I know you've been seeing signs, vote no. Hey, vote, get the story, get the full story. I'm not telling you how to vote, but I am telling you get the story on the vote. What does that mean? What does it look like? If I do, if I don't, if we do, if we don't, how is this going to infringe upon this on our educational system? Because again, don't just vote because you saw a sign on the street, and don't just vote one way because you heard them on the radio station. No. As Jay Duke says, the books are open. You can see where they're spending the money. You can see where progress is happening and where it's not. And I think you make your decisions off of those elucidated, those enlightened context. Otherwise, you've done yourself a great disservice just moving by no information and maybe a whole lot of feeling and emotion, and that serves nobody in the long run. Listen. So back to our whole idea. For those of you just joining us, we're talking about the power of narratives and really what's behind the story. And here's what we're trying to elevate this kind of understanding and this thinking process is that you and me, we are made up of the experiences of our lives. Those experiences, those stories create a particular narrative. They form us to choose the people who to be around and choose who not to be around. Who our spouses are, who our spouses are not, right? How we rear our children, how we don't rear them. All of us are walking stories. All of us are walking stories. And if we're going to have community, if we're going to be in relationship, yeah, you need to know my story. You need to know that there are people that don't like each other because they don't know each other's story. There are people that don't like me, don't like you, because they don't know where we come from. They've not taken the time. They've heard other people, well, this one, this and that one, this and that. And of course, when you traffic in gossip and traffic in rumor and old wives' tales and fables, well, it'll create a particular picture of you that, of an individual that you're missing actually the blessing of you establishing a relationship with them. All you had to do is know their story. All you had to do is get to know them. That's what it means by getting to know them, understanding my story, so that you can experience me in the way that I really need to be experienced, and not through the words of others or the perception or the self-inflated perception that you looked at me or you saw me do something in one measure and you said, oh, that's who he is. And that's not who I am. And so I'm staying away from them because I see. No, you staying away from them because you're ignorant of the fact of who they really are. You really just don't know. And I get it. Every one of us are in those places. Every one of us, right? We see it every day on that deceptive tool called social media, right? It gives you the illusion, gives this generation and the illusion that we know people that we really don't know. We don't know them. We don't, right? And, because one person you could think is a rank demonic individual if you just listen to other people, and then you listen to the person tell their story, then you find out, no, it wasn't like that. Or you find out, yep, I was right. You are a rank demon. There is something wrong with you. It don't all go up to the top, that part. Right? But I think that is important. I think that is wholesale important for us becoming better people, better community, better spouses, better children, better friends, better neighbors, is to get to understanding people's stories, right? One of the things and my mom, she's transitioned, but I used to go over to the house and she would tell me people XYZ, do you know so and so and so? And then I was like, no. And she said, well, okay, have you ever wondered why XYZ? And I'm like, yeah, I used to wonder that growing up. And she said, okay, so here's what happened. Here's what you didn't know. And I was like, yo, okay. And she normally was dealing with that. So she would say, don't judge them harshly. Don't judge them like all you've seen of them is all of who they are. No, all you're seeing of them is how they're living out the part that has made the greatest effect on their life. And those things that part is not always a good part for humanity. They're living out their worst angels and their worst hurt and their worst trauma and their worst tragedies. They're living those things out. And you're thinking that that's who they really are. When in fact, those stories and if you took time to look back a ways, some years and some experiences ago, what you will find is that individual is not who you think they are. And so the reason why I think this is important today is because if you don't get anything else out of this broadcast culture call, you already lean in. If you don't get anything out of this broadcast, turn up your volume just a little bit. You ready? You ready? Be patient with yourself. Learn how to be patient with yourself. That yes, we all have some things, that we have been through and have lived through. We all have had some pain, some trauma, some craziness, some experiences that we can't testify about in church. All of us. And whether we tell people or not, hey, guess what? We still experience it, and that those things still transform and form us and create within us a particular way of thinking, an ideology, a narrative. And if we don't stop and take a moment to understand that, yeah, I'm not giving myself credit for surviving. I'm not giving myself credit for starting all over again. And I kind of want to talk to that individual today that's starting all over again, that you've had trauma. You might have lost a marriage, lost a spouse to divorce and or death, or you might have lost a child that way as well, or you're not on speaking terms. You might have lost a job or something, just your life just been crazy. Here's what I want to tell you. Look up, be encouraged. Your story, yeah, process it right. It did happen. It's not like it didn't. It did. But that's a part of the tremendous narrative that is you. Your stories are the kneading hands on the dough to make fresh bread call your life. That's what your experiences are. You don't have to hide them and run away from them. Again, be prudent, be wise, and who you share your narratives with. I tell that to young ministers that I teach all the time. And young people, when you get up to talk before people, some folks cannot handle your personal narratives. Stick to the text. Yeah, stick to the text until you built a relationship. And most times, the person that's normally built the relationship is the pastor. So if you're an associate minister and these folks don't hear you but once a month or every other month, then you ain't got to tell us all your private business. No, because that is a way that you probably won't ever get back up again. Absolutely. You got to understand that. And so, yeah, one of the moves and the motions of life is being able to, yes, forgive, be patient with yourself. You already survived 100% of the things that have happened to you. How do I know? Because you're listening to me now. You have survived 100% of the things that have happened to you. Now, the next part about that is how will you view the story? How will you view the narrative? Because how you view it oftentimes shapes you. Because it could have been a bad thing that happened. It could have been an evil thing. You could have met a terrible person. Now you have the responsibility and the obligation to process that, because depending on how you process that is how that thing is going to form and or shape you. So it did happen. Now that tells me to stay away from that kind of person. Don't put myself back in that situation. Yeah, because I was in it by my choice. Or even the things that I didn't choose. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that a pattern of my life. I survived that, so my children won't have to go through that. Right? So you have to begin to think about all of those things. Think about all of those things that are so very important that have crafted your life. And that's not the place to sit there and mope. I didn't know my mama. I didn't know my daddy. Okay. That doesn't make you bitter. And that also shouldn't make you treat your children in a way that is connected to the pain and the trauma that you had. You know how it feels not to have your mama there or your daddy there. And so you're going to do the same thing to your children? Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. Oh, but Bishop, I'm feeling the void. Well, the way you fill the void, come closer. The way that you fill the void is you act differently than your history. If they treated you wrong, if they abandoned you, if they made you feel like you weren't important, then don't do that to your children. Don't treat anybody else that way. If they left you on, somebody's doorstep, don't you do that. If they were never there for you, then guess what? Doesn't mean that you have to do that. You have the power to choose, because yes, now, especially when you're an adult, you have the power to choose your own story and how these stories affect you, your experiences. There are crazy things that have happened to me when I was a child. There were crazy words spoken, crazy things done to me, just crazy. But I purposed that in my story that, yo, that's not, never going to talk to my kids like that, never going to do my children like that. No, you know, and I had amazing parents. So I'm not talking about them, but I'm talking about schoolyard things. I'm going to be there. I ain't going to be no man up, don't be a punk, don't do, you know how we used to do back in the day. No. Now, now they're going to be responsible. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to have chores. They're going to earn their keep because that's right too. Yes, it is. Those are the things that have formulated your life, your great work ethic. Yeah. But what we will not do is I don't believe that you got to call them out their names. You know, I was in, where was I? I was doing something and I was listening and I think I was at Walmart for a rare occasion. Maybe it wasn't Walmart, it was Target. It feels like it was Target. But nonetheless, and this little baby couldn't have been no more than 2 and 3 years old, walking behind this mother, and she turned around, kid 2 or 3 years old, you know, they get, you know, enamored with seeing something and just cussed him out. I was like, whoa, what is going on? You first of all, children that age are going to mimic what you say. So be careful, because when you start cussing, they are hearing you. They may not be able to say how you sing it, but they're hearing you. They're processing that language, and they're going to use it one day. And they're not going to know the appropriateness of it or the lack of appropriateness of it, right? That part. Because you misappropriated that discipline moment. And I was sitting there looking. I was like, are we serious? Bring your, bring your, I was like, yo, this what we doing today? That's my little phrase. This is what we are doing today. So I walk past, and I walk past slow because I wanted to catch her eye. Yeah, that's right. Listen, I was choosing violence that day, and I wanted her to look at me because I wanted her to know this is what are you doing? And I think somebody else saw me and say, hey, Pastor Smith. And because she looked like she was going to say something. And she said, hey, Pastor Smith. And I was like, dang, you blew my cover. Because I didn't want the young lady to know I was a pastor. I just wanted I was a concerned citizen for the child and for her. I'm like, hey. And you know what? I experienced her that day. I experienced her story, her journey, because there's no way you're cussing out and using profanity and you know, just language, bitter language, you know, to a 2 and 3 year old, and that wasn't done to you. Somebody told you, somebody taught you that was okay to do. You see? You see what I'm saying, Culture Call? And so that's important. That is important. How we begin to reflect these narratives. And if we don't do it right, oh my goodness. If we don't do it right, let me say it again. Let me say it one more time. If we don't do it right, there's going to be another generation that's steeped in dysfunction. Another generation steeped in turmoil, steeped in trauma bonding, trauma activity. Because here it was, at 2 and 3 years old, you gave them a connection to your story that when you were that same age, that's how my mama and my daddy talked to me, and I'm gonna talk. And when does it end? When does the story change? You see? And so those are things that we must need consider. Yeah. Those are things that we really, really need to consider. And if we don't do that, then we're handing our children stories that will not profit them, because we're shaping them in the ways that we were shaping them. We were shaped, and all of those things were not good. We're not kosher. We didn't need to do that. Bottom line. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's very, very important as we understand the next moment, the next season of our lives. Those things are important. the narratives that we're creating, and the narratives not only that we're creating, but the narratives that we're living. What is your story? Culture Call. You all who are listening to me, I don't care how old you are. One of the fascinating things, and I don't know, I guess it was my parents preparing me for their transition. I can remember on the back porch before my father passed away, was the spring of that year, and he was in the back potting a plant. And I asked my mom, I went to their house, and I said, Mom, what's that? And he said, well, he's back there potting the plant. And I just wanted to say, hey, and just to check on him to make sure he was okay. And then he was just talking, and then something just said, sit down, just find a seat, pull up a bucket. And that's what I did. I pulled up a bucket and I just sat down. I still got that picture in my phone, and that he was just sharing with me about his childhood. And I had never heard him, never ever heard him tell me his story. I've heard Mama try to tell me his story, but I've never heard my father tell me his story. Talk about his dad, talk about his mom, talk about his brother, talk about the way he was raised, all those different, I just never heard that. And I just sat there, and I was just coming to check on them. But, I just, as an eager, hungry son to know his father more, it changed the way that I saw him. It changed the way that I responded to him. Can I tell you this? It changed the way that I cared for him, that I loved him. Just listening to his story. And in that story, I had to applaud that he didn't treat us the way that he was treated. Not to say that he was the most perfect dad in the world. Absolutely not. He wasn't. But he was mine. And to hear his story shifted my thinking about the kind of man he is. Right? And I will never forget that. I will never forget that as long as I live. Yeah. And you who are listening to me this morning, you have to start thinking about, go back a ways, especially if you still got your parents, or both of mine have transitioned. But if you still got your parents and some of your grandparents, go and find out, listen to them. Ask them to tell you their stories. See, because that's the thing that brought our community over. And really not just our community, but every community. And you don't listen to judge, just listen to learn. Let me say it again. Don't listen to adjudicate. Don't listen to judge them. Listen to learn. Because the generations are different. Times are different. People are different now. And so it's these stories that I'm intrigued by, even in our church, by those stories, how we got this kind of Christianity. What is the black church? What is this? What is the black community? How did all of this start? And everything has a narrative, y'all. And you got to stop. Take some time. Ask your spouse, tell me about your childhood, especially if you've not done that yet. If you've not done that, if you're still engaged or you're dating, you need to ask, see that. Don't tell me about how much money you make. I don't want to know about that. I want to know your story. What kind of parents you were raised under? What kind of household was it? Because that's what's going to show up when we get together. Not your paycheck. Yeah? But your story, your narrative. Because you may not be the right person for me, and I may not be the right person for you. Tell me how you are. Tell me your fear. Tell me what all of that stuff. You need to know all of that. And not only do you need to know all that about other people, but other people need to know some of that about you. Absolutely. Because that is the way that we grow together, Culture Call. That is the way that we put away some of this fear that's being injected, right? You got the guy saying the people in Ohio, they're eating cats and taking the pets and dogs. You were the same one. See, they don't start off with the narrative. You were the same one that gave them temporary protective custody status in this country. The same one that's going to that's driving. You were the one that extended it so that they could live here. Huh? which makes me doubt. Makes me, doubt that you understand your own decision. Right? The narrative matters. If you're around a pen, a piece of paper, you need to write that down. The narrative matters. And while you write that down, we're going to take a little break right here on The Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. I need you to keep it right here. Hey, there's so much more to come.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on The Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. And I am telling you, I am seeing responses in this chat, all of this stuff. Y'all are really enjoying this. I appreciate it. I really do. I really do. I want you to consider. I'm going to add some more to this. Don't tune me off yet, because don't miss this part. One of the things that I want to share with you all is the importance of journaling. Journaling, yeah. And I think I learned that from my mom growing up. And of course, I've always liked to write. I've always liked to. And, as a songwriter, I love to write, sermons and all those kinds of things. But I just have a fascination with an idea. Once I get an idea in my head, I love to jot it down. Now, that's one of the great things about smartphones, Apple and Androids, that you can open up those note parts of it and just, write. And, you have to start journaling how you process life. And you can put it first person. You can even create another character. That's not schizophrenia. You can assign yourself to a character and just talk about that character, about your story, your life, the day-to-day interactions with people. Back in the day, they used to call it keeping a diary. Y'all remember that? Yeah, keeping a diary. And that's so essentially significant, because I bet once you start writing about you, you won't be able to stop. You'll start saying, I did not know I had this much thought going on in my head, or I didn't even know how I processed this thing happening to me. But you owe it to yourself to write out some level of autobiography, some level of an auto narrative that you can, even one day give to your children, that they begin to understand why you made certain decisions and where you come from. Because, while you're doing it in real time, while you're parenting in real time, sometimes you don't have an opportunity to tell the story or to give the narrative or talk about, even though we retrospectively say certain things, my mom or my daddy used to do such and so forth that. But yeah, we say that, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about key points of formation. Not just you inhaling and exhaling, but in the measure of all of that, certain things have happened to you. Certain things have occurred in your life. And all of those things are important. All of them, every last bit. Right now, we're living in a particular American narrative. And the last decade, where you're seeing people banning books coming against critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion. You're seeing them adjusting certain things in school, taking out African-American courses in school. You know what that's all about? Is that they're trying to change their narrative. Because if we change it, there's another generation that will only think that what they see of certain people is what currently appears. If we can get our fingerprints off of the narrative, we can, because a tremendous part of African-American history in this country entails white people. Entails white Americans. It entails them. Yeah. I mean, they can't, and their interaction with us, their perspective of us, their, our interactions with the laws and the violence. I mean, XYZ. The last week, or maybe earlier this week, but we celebrated, but not celebrated, but commemorated the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church. Oh, what a story! Not only what a story that was told by the girl's surviving parents, but what stories weren't told, that were snuffed out, that were allowed to be told and exist because of hatred, which is another story. Because how did the man that planted the bomb, how did his mind even get there? What was his narrative? I don't care. No, care. No, care, because those who don't know history are destined to repeat it and sometimes doomed to repeat it. So, yeah, I want to know what was in this man's head. That's why the narrative that one of the candidates is setting up in this country is very dangerous, very volatile. Then just listen to the story. Listen to how they see the country. Listen to where they place the victimhood. Even when the truth doesn't pan it out. Yeah, right. You're gonna tweet and post, second assassination, which it was not. The FBI already proved that, as I said before, by the Democrats. Are you serious, sir? Everybody that has tried that, if they tried it indeed, because now I got an issue with some narratives, but I'm not going to even put it out here. But yeah, if they did indeed, but everybody was a former supporter of yours. What's the narrative? And his running mate said on Sunday that we will create the stories and the narratives so that the media will follow it. It don't have to be true. It does not have to be true, because we're still waiting for these constituents that you keep telling you, because you are a United States senator, you keep telling us that people in your constituency, in your district, they are telling you that this has happened. But none of those people have come forward. All these people who you say you're basing that false narrative on, that I'm hearing it. None of them have come out. You know why? Because there are none. Because in the back of your mind, I'm just going to create a story. I'm going to create a story that everybody, and so I can run with something, so I can deflect. Right? You wrote a whole book. The book and the movies that's coming out on one candidate, they told them to not put it out until after the election. Because if you knew their story, you ain't no way you would support that. Well, Bishop, he's against abortion. Okay, you think so? Right? For real though. He's against this, and I'm against abortion too. Yeah, okay, all right. So we're going to judge this on biblical morality? No, you bet not. Because the very same person that you says against it is the same person who cheated on every wife. Every wife. Had children by the mistress. Married the mistress, cheated on the mistress. You want to do morality? Listen, the person, we're talking about storyline now, because it's right there in front of us, that we don't ever see the current spouse on nothing, on anywhere, nowhere. It's not like they're traveling, pushing this, that, nothing. Narrative, stories matter. And now you traveling with another one? Okay. But he's the standard bearer of the righteous standard bearer. He's the Messiah for Christian nationalism. Right? You see? It's the stories that matter, the narratives that matter, Culture Call. If you just sit with it a minute, and I know most of you are intelligent. A lot of you are greatly intelligent. So you're paying attention to what's going on. So I'm not telling you things that you're not. I'm just confirming and affirming what you've already seen and what you already know to be the truth. You already know it to be the truth. Absolutely. And so one of the things that we've got to do is to make certain that we understand clearly understand what the responsibility of us to tell the truth in our stories. Truth in storytelling is important. Yes. Everybody said, well, I got my own truth. Okay. All right, yeah, you got your own story to tell. Yeah, okay, yeah. But don't create something that's not. Because guess what? Stories have a way of unraveling, have a way of pushing you toward being honest, being truthful. You know, Freudian slips and oops, I told the truth there. I didn't mean to do that. Because a lie was never meant to exist forever. And so they're trying to move out the books. They're trying to move out this. They're trying to move out that because they don't want people to understand the stories. I'm currently, I finished reading it, a book on immigration. A book on immigration by this Latinx, that's not how she pronounced it, Latinique, young woman. And the story is so profound. Her journey of life is so profound that when you hear immigration stories, you hear things of illegal immigrants and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, her story is so incredibly profound. And the way that immigrants have to navigate in this country, a lot of them believe one thing, but they feel like they've got to assimilate to another to be accepted. Yeah? To be accepted, to be worth, or to be to explore, you know, to be accepted in the majority populace. I was trying to find a way to say that kindly. Absolutely. And so a lot of times they're voting, they're doing things, they're saying things because they're lining up. They're lining up with the majority because it's not what they believe. And she tells this narrative. And as she was telling this narrative, Culture Call, I heard the scripture, I believe, that says that you need to be careful how you entertain strangers because you could be entertaining an angel unaware. They're animals. They're legal aliens. President Biden said not to call them animals, and those are. But I'm gonna call them the animal. You see, I'm gonna call them an animals. Really? The story. Listen. The story paints itself, and you know, I mean, yeah. And so I'm like, whoa. That you don't even know that some of the people who you like, I don't want to do that. Send them back. They could be angels unaware. The text says that. I didn't make that up. Y'all know you read your Bible every day. The text says that could be strangers unaware. And the problem is because the angel don't look like how you want to look. Think about it. Stranger angel, which means that the angel is going to look like a stranger. It's going to be something that's not necessarily to your liking or something not necessarily to your approval. And so that is going to be the overwhelming narrative of how, because you could be rejecting somebody who is designed to bless you, to empower your life, to show you favor. Watch this. Here's what I know about stories. You never know what somebody's story is going to be. You never know how people are going to end up. So you got to be careful how you treat people. You never know what chapter of development and process and progress that they are walking in. So you got to be very careful how you treat people. You do. People got to be careful how they treat you. Because you treat me one way today, and then the next day, I'm the manager or I own the business of what you need. And I could give you a discount. I could have done that, but no. I'm not doing that now, but I'm not. Because now you didn't regard me. See, we never know. Let me say this again. You never know. And if you don't know it, then, hey, be kind. Appreciate everybody's story. Right? Jesus goes to heal that young boy. And he asked the father, how long has he been this way? What's his story? What's his narrative? Because if it's not from birth, then I need to know what's narrative. Where did this thing enter into him? When did he start exhibiting this kind of behavior? Yeah, I need to know. because stories matter. That every time you read the Bible and it says a certain man, a certain woman, read that story, because there's something that in particular that you need to pay attention to. Pay attention to the story. Pay attention to it. He's creating and setting up a narrative to teach what? A greater lesson. See? We live around it every day, but I don't know if we appreciate it as such. And I need you to start appreciating each other's narratives. Yeah. Sit down and talk to your children and find out what's on their mind. Who do they think that they are? That's important. Huh? That's very, very important. Yeah, what are your children, what are they thinking about themselves? How are they processing it all? And you need to be like, okay, you need to store it over that. No, that's not who you are. I know that's what they said, but that is not who you are. XYZ. My mom and dad would always ask, how's your day? Anything significant happen? And, when I was growing up, man, my feelings were paper thin. I always had a spicy mouth, but I had paper thin feelings. What an oxymoron, right? That I would love to get you told off, but please don't bring it back to me. Because, I had to grow up out of that, man. And I was bullied in school because I was a shorty. A shorty with big old glasses on my face because I had to grow into all that. And I'm like, yo. My mom said, hey, it ain't what they call you, it's what you answer to. Tell me what XYZ, ABC. And she got in the habit that when she was driving us home from school, she would ask us that. And then when I got older, it's just like, okay, well, now it don't matter what you call me. It was what I answered to. So, hey, there are people who are not getting the blessing called L. Spencer Smith. Why? Because you done heard a story that ain't my story. You done heard a story that somebody else tell you that don't know me. And now you scared of me. You upset with me, or you got this thing in your mind. and I like to think that I'm probably one of the nicest people to anybody. But people got it in their minds because they got a story. Whether you tell your story or not, Culture Call, somebody got a story to tell for you. That's why I want to empower you to really think about your narrative. Think about what it all means. Think about where you're going. Think about what you've been through. Think about it, right? In church, we call it a testimony. But even the testimony are just the highlights. The testimony is just about the testimony should be about the triumphant part, the victory part, right? And nobody got, it's not a story, it's a testimony. It ain't supposed to be 40 minutes long. That's why we cut testimony service off at church, because folks were telling stuff that that's too much for this setting. But yeah, you got to start working on your narrative. That's going to be your homework. I think that's going to be good. Even while you're driving in your car, sitting at your cubicle, think about how you got to be the kind of person that you are. Give yourself grace. Practice giving yourself grace. Practice forgiving yourself. Practice forgiving others who might have done things in your story because, they were tormented. It wasn't you. Their spirit, their own demons, quote unquote, were tormenting you, not because something was wrong with you, but because something was wrong with them. There's a flaw in their story. What they want you to do is inherit a flaw in yours. Yeah. So that's your homework. Listen, this is the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3. That's right, 790 WTSK. Keep it right here. Yeah, there's much more to come.
This is a world premiere.
Well, beloved, this has been an amazing, amazing day, a broadcast of sharing with you. And I pray that today that we've said something that has inspired you, that is giving you another little push to do better in life. That's my assignment. Yeah, that's why I believe God wakes me up every morning, is to push my brothers and my sisters a little bit closer to purpose and destiny. That, one of the things that my pastor says to me all the time, he says to me, He says that God will never give you an assignment that he doesn't give you grace for. That God gives you grace for everything he has called you to do. And no matter how rough that might be, no matter how, how should I say, no matter how much that might challenge us, the reality is that you have grace to handle it. No matter what your story is, it's yours. Yeah. No matter what your story is, it's yours. And yeah, I want to encourage you to embrace it to the full. I want to encourage you to make sure that you hug on yourself and love on yourself as you recount some things. Yeah. And some things might make you angry and bring tears to your eyes, but it's a part of your process. Here's the deal. And I want to leave you with this today. Own your story. Let me say it again. I meant to take that pause because that's a pregnant pause. That's what they tell us in speech. Take a pregnant pause. Own your story. Stop running away from it. Stop acting like it didn't happen. Stop not acting like you're not here on purpose, because once you own your story, that will tell your life, that will tell everything around you, send it on alert that I am here on purpose. I am not here by happenstance. And so I think that's very, very important that you do that. And if you don't do that, then guess what? You allow someone else or something else to create another story in you. And that's not fair to the life, the breath, the genius, the grace that's on your life. That's not fair. Absolutely not. And so, yeah, I'm going to challenge you as we get ready to sign off for the day. I'm going to challenge you to look back at your story. Own every part of it. Yes. The stuff that you have to kind of squint to look at, the unbelievable stuff, the mountains high, and what? The valleys low. Own it all. It belongs to you. Yeah. And it has made you who you are. Do you hear me, sir? Ma'am. Do you hear me, bro? Sis. It has made you who you are, undeniably. And don't doubt the genius of God in giving you the story that he laid out for your life. You see what I'm saying? Right. Folks say it could have gone another way, but it didn't. And you're still here. You survived it all. Listen, at the end of every phone call, my grandmama used to say, I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, I love you a hug around the neck. This has been yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the Culture Call. I'm telling you, we've had a great day. Continue to love intentionally. Be good to everybody that you meet, because you know what? What you sow, you're definitely going to reap. And I believe that you're only going to reap good, great things. Y'all be good. We'll catch you back in the morning at 10 a.m. God bless you.